Hello, Internet. So nice to see you. We are here today for another live music theory talk. So, a couple of things before we start, because I need your help, guys. Okay, so every now and then people complain that the level between me and my guest are not exactly the same. I cannot hear that, but if you can hear that and tell me if you want me higher or my guest higher or lower, etc., just write it in the chat, okay? And then I'll do it, okay? But help me here, please, okay? Second thing I want you guys to ask your help on, it's, well, if you're here right now, say hi in the chat. I like to see who you are. And if you have any questions while we go through this live stream, ask them in the chat. But ask them as soon as you can, because we had people asking questions at literally the last minute of a live stream, okay? And we want to answer it, but if it's the last minute of the live stream, I cannot embark in another 20-minute answer, okay? Even if I really, really, really would like to, okay? So please ask your question as soon as possible, okay? Fantastic. So, and again, if you're here, say hi in the chat. I want to see who's here. I already see Richard. Oh, hi, Richard. And James Maxwell, hi. And the team is here only for my accent. I'm taking it, I guess. No problem. Okay. Hello, guys. So, today we want to talk about beginners. Now, how do you get an accent like mine? Well, you could be born and raised in Italy. That's then moved to Canada. So that's how you get the accent like mine. Okay. But if I find a way to bottle it and sell it to you, believe me, I would. Okay. So today we talk about beginners. Okay. With beginners, I mean people who haven't touched a guitar before or just started, but I also mean people who've been playing for years and years and years, and they find themselves stuck on the same few things, okay? So it could totally be that you may have been playing guitar for 20 years, but you are still, technically speaking, a beginner because you can play only a few things. And this could be because you didn't have enough time to practice or because you didn't find the right way to move forward. No problem. Today we talk about you, okay? Today we see how to help you move forward. We see what you need to concentrate on, what you need to not concentrate on, and so how can you get better at playing guitar. So, now I have my opinions on how to teach beginners, but I specialize in music theory. So, even if I have my opinion, I know I'm not an absolute expert on that, okay? So, I enlisted the help of somebody who is an expert on teaching beginners because that's what he does, okay? And so let me introduce you guys, my good friend Maurice Richard, or as I call him, Mo.
Hey,
Hello, Maurice. How's it going?
I'm doing good, thank you. How are we doing here?
Very good. Okay, Mo, I have a bit of a technical problem here because I'm hearing a bit of a technical problem with audio, etc., etc. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna ask you a question and let you ramble for a few minutes until I fix the problem. Okay. Sorry guys, I'm exposing everything today. Okay, so Maurice, I know you have a list of things that beginner should study or learn. I know because you sent me. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I would like you to start talking about the first element of that list. And I want to tell our guys why is that, okay? Uh, why they should study that and how they should study that. Okay, going right ahead.
All right. So there's a lot of, so I'm going to talk mainly to total beginners here. But this can apply to someone who can already play and like Tommaso said, is stuck. You just take it from where I give it to you and you can kind of apply it a little deeper. But anyway, so to me, the most important thing for a beginner to learn and to start with is rhythm and strumming. So I've got an acoustic, Tommaso's got electric. Doesn't matter which one you start with. Rhythm is the foundation of all music. So if you can't get down and do rhythms properly, it's going to be very difficult for you to, even if you want to play lead. I mean, rhythm is going to be very important to you. So the first thing I get any beginner to start with is to strum clearly and evenly, and doing it continuously, so that they have some momentum. So that is the most important thing. Now, a lot of people that, and I was I was included in this, that when they first learn guitar, they decide they want to learn their favorite song or songs, and a lot of times the rhythms for those are very complicated, or you try to listen to the singer and duplicate their rhythm, and it just gets crazy. So what I do is I start with some basic rhythms that are easy to learn for anybody. And then once you've got a feel for rhythm, it's easier to then take that and make more complex rhythms. So for example, if you're a total beginner and you've never really played guitar before, and even if you played before, what you want to do is be able to do a simple pattern like, let's say, just all downs. Now, you're probably not going to hear me because I get really good noise canceling um, headphones, but you could probably see me. So you see my hand is probably going to be moving at a very consistent pace. So if you're just strumming and you're just doing, I'll just do it. If you can hear it, great. If you can't, no big deal. So what I'm doing here is I'm just doing straight downs, and I'm not strumming on the up. If you're a total beginner, if you can do that and you can do that continuously, great, perfect. That's a good start. All right. Now, in order to get better, now what you want to do is, as a beginner, you may want to say, well, I want to add chords to that. You could, but right now we want to just develop your strumming ability, because that is going to allow you to automate that process, that skill a little more. And then when you add chords, it's going to be easier because you kind of have a foundation built. So yes, it can get really boring. So you don't want to do this for hours and hours, of course. So some other strum patterns. So that was just, I call that a down, 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 down pattern, 4 downs. Another one that's really easy is just down, up. You just do the ups, down, up, down, up. Notice how consistent my strumming is. That's what you want to look for. Your arm is doing the same thing. It's not going faster. It's not stopping, stopping. You want it to go continuously, just like you're pedaling on a bike. Just keep your feet moving, keep your arm moving, and that's what you want to do. And then you can get into some more complex patterns. So if you work on this separately without chords, the great thing is you can take a very simple pattern that you know and you can do well, and then you can start making it more complex, and you can develop that skill without having to use chords and get better that way. And so, I mean, there's a lot of other patterns that I could do that I would teach beginners. One is, if you're a total beginner, you can do those really easy. Then down, 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 up, down, up. That would be another one, because it's all focused. The changes in the rhythm are all on downstrokes, which is really easy, compared to some of the more complicated ones where you have to change and do it on an upstroke. Another one would be down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up. There's another one. So as a beginner, you've got lots of options. Now you can take all those things, you can combine them. You could, there's all sorts of ways to take this and make it a lot more complicated or complex. So that's the basis where I would start with. If you're a total beginner, you can have some success with that. You'll feel good because you can actually, it'll sound like music because it's rhythm. Now, yes, you're not changing chords, but still, it feels good and sounds good. So, Tommaso, do you have anything?
Yeah, I want to add something to this, is that a lot of people, first of all, underestimate the power of this. People look at this and go like, yeah, I can do down, up, down, up, down, up. Guess what? You don't. Okay, I know it sounds strange, but if you see that you really can't, record yourself. Put a phone in front of you. No, everybody has a phone at this point. Put a phone in front of you with the camera and everything. Do this, look back to it, and see if you like it. Okay, see if it's consistent in time or not. If for more challenge, use a metronome, and try to play with the metronome and film yourself. And you're gonna be surprised at what you see. Okay, because again, it seems strange, but that's stuff that even professionals are still training, okay, to be perfectly in time, to make it perfectly even, and this kind of thing. And the sky's the limit. And the better you can do it, the better you sound. Whenever you see somebody that is playing few simple things, but they sound good, they have mastered this. Whenever you see somebody who's playing something complex and they are sounding good, they have mastered these and move forward. Okay, you don't go anywhere without mastering these. So that's the first thing. Don't underestimate this thing, which is also has a flip side, which also means if you can do only a few things, don't feel bad. Get those things down really well. A lot of great musicians are really not as versatile as you think. The idea of the versatile um, musician is something that came recently. Before we had the competent musician who could do one or two things really, really well. Okay, and again, I'm not saying one is better, one is good. I'm just saying that the idea changed. But versatility sometimes it's overrated. You want to have at least one thing you can do well first. Okay, especially if you're a beginner. Get this strumming down. It covers a lot of range. Okay, it covers a lot of possible styles and songs already. Just a few strumming patterns. Okay, now the other thing I want to add is that every time I get a beginner student in person, and they tell me that they learned something already. What turns out when I ask them is that they went on YouTube. Hey guys, yeah, I know you're all here, okay? It went on YouTube. They learned 2 or 3 chords. By that they mean that they learned the shape of the 2 or 3 chords. And by the way, they always learn G first, which is something I'm against. In a sense. You may give me your opinion too, but I'm against starting from G. Okay, start from something easier like E minor. Okay, but they learned the shapes. They didn't learn how to switch between those chords. They didn't learn any strumming pattern. Apparently, it's really hard to learn strumming patterns from a video. Okay, because you get no feedback. I mean, or maybe there are probably ways to make a video that will teach you strumming pattern. I have a few ideas. I know Maurice has some too, but nobody's doing that because it's gonna be hard to do that video. Okay, and so you don't find that. And so essentially they know they have the illusion of knowing, because if you know 2 chords and then you cannot switch with them and you have no strumming pattern, you cannot play any music. Conversely, if you know 1 chord and a strumming pattern, okay, you don't have much range, but you can play some music. Okay, to the point that there are songs that require 2 chords, and if you learn those 2 chords, right? I mean, the good old, the good old a horse with no name. Okay, it's a staple of the thing. You learn 2 chords, a simple strumming pattern, and you can play a song. Okay, so that would be. But I know, I know about the next item. So let's move on the next because it's super important.
Right on. So good additions there, Tommaso. Wholly agree. So the next thing is exactly what you were talking about. Now, once we've got some rhythm developed, now we want to apply it, and we want to be able to change chords, so we make it a little more interesting, right? Yeah, it is interesting that there are many songs out there with only 2 chords. I was actually surprised at how many songs are out there that are only really based on 2 chords. It was actually shocking to me. And really, most of the big hits that everybody knows are formed of probably 3 or 4 chords at the most. So you don't have to know a lot of chords in order to be able to, and that's what we're going to talk about now, of course, is how to form and change chords properly. So I'm going to take the same approach because this works with beginners. See, one of the big problems that beginners have is they try to do everything all at once. They try to do the whole thing. And unfortunately, learning to play guitar, everything is brand new. There's none of this programmed or pre-programmed in your brain. So you have to learn to conquer and divide and conquer, so that you can have more success. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you how to learn to form chords properly, and then how to change them, and do that so that you can program it properly in your brain the first time. And then when you add it to strumming later, then you will have success, or more likely to have success. Now, as Tommaso said, I wouldn't start with G, C, or D, because especially C. C is probably the hardest open chord to learn. You know, and G is a very big stretch, and it's very awkward for most people to do those chords. Now, you may not have had a problem learning those chords. You're probably one of, like, I've taught hundreds of students, and you're the minority. Okay, most people struggle with this stuff. So I start people with very simple chords like E minor and A sus2 actually, which or D6 add 9 or F sharp. Anyways, I'll show you the two that I first named. So E minor, if you look at it, and you're going to be hard to see it, but basically what you're going to do is you're going to take your first finger, second finger. So that's the beauty of these easy chords is they only use 2 fingers, and they're your primary fingers. These fingers are really you have a lot of dexterity, and you're able to control them really well because they're I don't know why, probably because we use them more often, but it's just the way they're wired as well. Okay, and I suspect there's something to do with these fingers having more problems because of the way our muscles and stuff are all set up in there. Anyway, but long story short is these are the 2 first fingers I would use. E minor, you just push down on the 2nd fret on string 5 and 4. All right, that's it. So that's all I'm doing here. And so when you want to learn a new chord, even though this is a really easy chord, what you want to do is you want to put your fingers where you think it's accurate, where it's going to sound good. And then we're going to, so this is a process that will help you with other chords too that are more complicated. So yes, you might say this is too easy for these chords. Don't worry about it. The main thing is you understand the process and the concept. So what you do is when you first learn a chord and it's awkward, you would put your fingers down and then you would just push down and do what we call a push-up. And then you would let go and push down and let go. And those push-ups, what they do is they train your brain to identify all the fingers that are being pushed down without leaving the strings, to treat that as a unit. Okay, that gets encoded as a pattern. And so then you can move the 2 fingers together a lot easier. Now, this is going to be really easy. Anybody can do this one. And then A sus2 is the same shape. You just move it down to the next 2 strings, which is strings 3 and 4. So those 2 chords just require these 2 fingers, and all you got to do is go back and forth. So that is how, I would teach someone how to learn a chord. Now let's do it with a harder chord. Okay, so for instance, you can do some rhythms with these 2 chords, let's say, and you want to move to other chords. So you could learn the D chord. That's an easier one because everything's down in here, and you could use it with those 2 other chords that we already learned. But it's still awkward for many people who first start. So what you want to do is, instead of learning how to do like the 3 finger, what we call spider fingers, where each finger goes down one at a time, you form the chord, and it's okay if they go down one at a time at first, and then you do the push-up thing that I showed you earlier. So you put your fingers on there without any pressure, and then you push down, hold for a second, and let go. Push down, hold, and let go. And you do that for a minute or 2, actually probably 30 seconds. A minute or 2 is probably too long. I have a really bad sense of time. A minute, probably doing this, you probably do, 100 or so. That would be a lot. I mean, you could do that if you're able to. Most people aren't robots, so they usually won't do that for that long. They'll get bored, right? So if you do that for just, you do 20 or so, what happens is, again, if you've never formed this chord, this is now programming that shape into your brain. We're trying to program this, okay? And this is what is going to give you success later when you want to use it with something else like rhythm, like strumming, or with other chords. So now that we've got 3 chords here, what you want to do is learn how to change between them. And the way to do that, again, notice I'm not strumming. I'm not using this hand at all. And that's the key to this. We're dividing this and conquering it, and we're programming it separately so that we can then put the 2 together later. So what I'm going to do now is change from, let's say, a D to an E minor. So what we do is we just lift the fingers. We don't want to go too far. We don't want to do this and then go to E minor. We just try to lift our fingers as little as possible, move them over, and then drop them. And the idea is that we do a 3-point move, up, over, and down. We don't want to go up, over, hover, make sure all the fingers are right, and down. Changing chords, when we're learning how to change chords, the only way to do this without hesitating is if you do it slow enough. If you do it too fast, then you need to just not worry about making it perfect and just landing, because up, over, and down is the most important process. It's the foundation of your chord change. If you add anything into that process, like hesitation, you know, and you start using 3 different fingers, stuff like that, that's going to break the process. So what we want to do is up, over, down, up, over, down. Now, of course, I've done this thousands of times, and I make it look really easy. But believe me, when I first learned how to change chords, I did them like this. And so we want to try to avoid that as much as possible to start. And at first, it may be so difficult and so awkward for you that you will not be able to do it exactly perfect like I'm doing. But the goal is to not strum so that you can at least have a chance to get it as close as possible from the beginning. And that's all you do. You just learn to move in one motion, right? And that's the key. And that's why ASS2 is important with E minor. If you learn those 2 first, that's easy to get the feel for that, right? You're just moving back and forth. So when you go from E minor to D, it's like, it should feel the same. And when you go from E minor to G later, it should feel the same. And when you go from E minor to C or whatever, if once you've got that feeling between those really easy chords, remember it, and that's you want to make sure that feeling, that process is repeated as much as possible. So that's how I teach people how to change chords, and we move to you know, more difficult chords. But I would start with E minor, ASS2, D6 add 9, and then I would move to maybe A, D, and then G, and then go on to some other ones after that.
And then, and an important point in there is that you mentioned, and I want to underline, is that you're moving all your fingers at the same time, meaning you're not doing going from D to E minor. I do E minor with those 2 fingers, but you can do it with those fingers too. But moving from here to here, you're not doing like one finger,
no,
and the other finger. Okay,
unit, gotta be unit.
Yeah, you're taking away the tension from all the fingers. You're moving, then you're putting back tension on all the fingers, and when you're hovering, there is no tension. I know because I see you, I know because I've known you for a while. But that's the thing. But when I see most people, it's like they're afraid to let go of the fretboard. So they go like, oop, oop. Okay? And that kills your speed. If you try to hold everything, that kills your speed. So the first thing is, once you're done with a chord, let it go. Okay, makes sense. Just let it go, move on the next, play. Which again, I know it sounds easy because I'm saying move on the next like it's nothing. Of course, at the beginning you do it super slow. And that's the thing people underestimate all the time. They think, if I'm doing this and it takes 30 seconds to move, it's worthless. And when I'm telling you, if you're doing this and it takes 30 seconds to move, that's great. Do it again. And again. And then at a certain point it will take 29 seconds. And it will take 28 seconds. It will take 20 seconds. So we're going to move way faster than that. But then you're going to get faster. But the important thing is first do it, regardless how slow it is. And by the way, this is true for everything. Okay? So I think people who are on the chat that are trying to learning scales and all this kind of thing, the principle is the same, guys. You first do it slow. Okay? I'm going to make an example right now. So you see what I mean. But I mean, if you're trying to play a scale, of course, first you play super slow. Whatever the pattern of the scale, okay? Don't try to move fast immediately. You first do it, then you do it fast. Okay? The second thing is, again, whatever you're doing. So I see people on the chat here, for instance. I struggle with making them musical. Okay, make them musical slow. Okay, so for instance, you're thinking of doing something like, I had to warm up before doing that. Okay, or stuff like that. Really need to warm up. This is not slow, okay? So I'm not warming up, you see that I'm failing. You're a beginner, you probably cannot do this at this speed. So what do? You do it slow. And again, this never stops because when I'm warming up, I'm doing this slow. it can be a specific lick, or you can even improvise at this speed. Okay, now it's up to your imagination to be able to stretch time this way and still feel it as musical. Not saying no, but you are not going to be able to make it musical until you make the musical slow, or at least maybe you can, but it's going to take years because you need to wait until your hands move fast and then integrate everything later. It's way in a span of weeks or months. It's way faster if you learn this kind of slow motion thing, even with advanced lead technique or anything, other than trying to do it fast immediately. Okay? Right. So that's the thing. An exercise that we do on scales all the time is don't play the scale in order, meaning the scale in order would be, whoop, right? That's what a lot of people do. They learn their scales this way. It will never sound musical. You need to break it up a little bit. How do you break it up? Not going fast. Okay. You do it slow. You do it even slower than that. You're breaking it up. Is it music yet? No. But it's a stepping stone in that direction, okay? It's more musical than... Okay? So, you do it slow. Don't be afraid to do it slow. If you were seeing me or Maurice practicing, you'll be surprised at how much time we spend playing things super slow. Doesn't matter how fast they are in real life. I spend the majority, like more than 50% of my time playing those things, anything, super slow. Then I'm speeding it up. When I'm speeding it up, I'm playing it more times per minute because I'm speeding it up, so I need less time on there, okay? So 50% of my time is playing this stuff slow. That's the only way to learn. That's the only way to break new ground. That's the only way you can control your hands and not let your hands dictate what they want to do. You don't want to do what your hands want to do, okay? Mm-hmm. So take it slow. Now, I know we have a lot more things for beginners to practice, but I want also to go rapidly to a few things with you, Maurice, about what beginners should not practice. Then maybe we come back to what they have to practice, but because it's important to know what to do. It's also important to know what not to do, because all the beginners I see that come and ask my help, I found that they make consistently the same mistakes of doing things that are too advanced for them, they're not going to be helpful for them right now, etc., etc. So, hey, Maurice, just go through those.
Well, you know what? It's awesome because it just happens to be I was going to add something to what you were saying. It happens to perfectly fit exactly what the first thing I was going to talk about anyways when it comes to what you shouldn't be doing. So that'll tie all this together. So the way I'll approach it is this. I'm going to basically add to what Tommaso just said. He's talking about doing things slow. And here's the reason why playing things slow works so well. Because when I used to, when I tried to teach myself guitar years ago, when I first started taking lessons even, I couldn't do things very well. It felt awkward. And what I realized is every time I tried to learn your riff or sequence or lick or scale or whatever, my fingers just were always like out of control. And it wasn't until I finally got through my thick head to slow down that I realized why. It's because when you slow down, you reduce the tension. You feel exactly the way you should be playing faster. You finally have your tension under control. And tension is the one thing that is going to make you less musical, that's going to hurt your playing, that's going to limit you probably more than anything else. And when you play super fast, you're under and you can't control it, and you're not able to stay relaxed, then that's what's happening is you continue to reinforce that tension. And what that does is your fingers fly away and you have a hard time putting things together and making them sound musical. So, and the reason a lot of people do this, especially beginners, is because they focus on the sound. They want everything to sound really good. So when they're playing fast, they have to push hard as well on top of the fact that the speed adds tension. Then they push even harder, to compensate for the poor sound. So one thing that a lot of beginners do is, especially if they go on YouTube, they're going to be told you have to make every note perfect. Well, yeah, there's a time for that, but when you're trying to play and you're trying to express yourself and make music or whatever, if you're focused on the sound, you're going to stop and worry and be tense, and you're going to actually not sound musical at all. So one thing that is really weird with music, and especially guitar, is that for some reason we think that we are going to pick up a guitar and after 1 hour lesson we're going to sound like a pro. It's like it doesn't sound like the Eric Clapton, or it doesn't sound like Yngwie or whoever your favorite artist is. Like, yeah, well, you just picked up a guitar. Yeah, it's not going to happen. It took them thousands of hours, so I don't know why you think it's going to take you like 1 hour. And so what happens is, to make it sound better, to make it so when, let's say you do an E minor chord and it doesn't sound great, right? It's like there's some rattling or buzzing and this note doesn't sound perfect or whatever. Well, you don't have calluses yet. You don't have a lot of things that you need. So what people do is they compensate, they push really hard. But then when you want to change from an E minor to another chord, well, you have to release all that tension. All your muscles that are engaged have to release. And so then that really tends to fling your hand. And so you have to then compensate. So basically it's a compensation, overcompensation, and then it just goes on and on and on. And what happens is, when you're first learning chords, you already have a whole bunch of things that are holding you down, because holding the guitar is new. Putting your hand like this is new. Doing this is new. Everything's new. And now you're pushing down harder and you have to change the chord, which is also new. And so keeping it all together, what happens is it creates bad habits, it creates mistakes, it creates extra tension. And so what happens is that's the worst thing you can do at the start. You should worry less about the sound and concern yourself more about feeling nice and relaxed. If you can feel relaxed instead of worrying about the sound and making your chord changes and strumming and all that, and feeling that way, that's the feeling you want when you play at a higher level. So when I play now, as Tommaso alluded to earlier, he can tell that I'm really relaxed. And when anything I play, whatever, I am always relaxed. I am almost calm. The only time I start making really big mistakes is if I am tense and I'm playing just beyond my abilities. So learn how to stay calm and relaxed and keep that even in the beginning. And if you're stuck now, I bet you that probably is a big reason, because I was stuck for years, and a lot of it was because I kept trying to play really fast. And when you play fast, it adds even more tension, like I said earlier, and you just can't control anything really well when you're going fast, because your brain has to make decisions really quickly. And if you're going to make a mistake, your brain has to decide, or if you want to change something, your brain has to decide, the fastest way to do that. Well, you might forget to strum. You might forget to do something else because your brain's too busy trying to deal with one problem. So if you slow it down, your brain can handle all the pieces and it can keep you nice and calm and relaxed. So the worst case scenario, if you worry about the sound, is that you're going to really develop really bad habits. You're going to you're going to add all these little tiny things into the process that makes music sound musical, that are going to make it choppy and make it slow and make it clunky. And then the faster you get, the more you just do those clunky things faster, and you never quite feel or sound like you're musical, you're good. If someone's been playing 10 years and they still feel like they sound really bad, well, that's probably why. And it took me years to clue in, to just slow down and relax and not worry about that, to finally make real progress in my playing. So that was a key to me going from a mediocre guitar player to a really good one. And it helps with all my students too. So, Tommaso, do you have anything to add to that?
Several things. I wanted to comment on a couple of things. Some people were talking about calluses, okay, and that's when you're a beginner, you have no calluses on your fingers, which means you're squeezing the strings really hard to get a sound. But what happens in, let's say, between 4 and 8 weeks of playing, you should develop some calluses. The calluses are harder than normal flesh. So once you can do that, you have to reevaluate how much you squeeze those strings, because you need to squeeze them less. Okay, and so if you're starting and you have no calluses and it feels like playing this guitar is so hard, give it some time. Okay, if it's still hard after a couple of months, then check if the strings are not too high on the guitar or there are other things to change on your instrument. But it's important to give yourself, your fingers, time to get the calluses and become stronger. That would be one thing. But there was somebody else here. Yeah, they were saying that this was the best teaching example I've ever seen on YouTube about slowing down, because later he's also commenting and the slow bends. I think it's bends, were nuggets. Okay. I'm not surprised. Okay. I'm going to say one thing. It's going to be a bit controversial, but the thing is, you're not going to find a lot of teachers on YouTube. You're going to find a lot of musicians on YouTube. The game on YouTube is to show off. I mean, I know it's obvious on one side, but it's controversial on the other one. But the thing is, you're going to see that very popular music channel are people that show off. People who teach get less views in general. But so most teachers on YouTube are afraid to show you how to practice, because they're afraid that somebody in the comments is going to say that they are not good musicians. But you see, that's the thing. Everybody, literally everybody who can play this instrument was slowing down things. Okay, but they're afraid to show it to you, because then you're gonna see those 10 seconds of video and think, see, those guys that can only play slow. No, it's an example. Okay, but if I start showing you guys stuff like that, okay, what are you gonna do with that? I mean, makes sense. We can show off if we want to, okay, but that's not the point. Okay, so you're not going to find a lot of people actually teaching on YouTube, because actual teaching looks bad. Okay, it looks bad. It's people showing you these things very slow for several times. And by the way, when you play something slow, all the mistakes can become more evident. It's obvious. That's why why we do it. When I play slow, if I don't do this bend perfectly uniformly, if I play it wrong, like this way, like some people do, it's evident, it's obvious. And so people don't want to show you music played slow or exercise played slow, because it looks bad. Okay, and once it's on YouTube, it's recorded, it stays there forever. Everybody can download it or screenshot it or whatever. So you're not gonna find a lot of teaching on YouTube. You find there are some channels who do, not many. Okay. So that's why what we are showing you right now is nothing special. Really. Okay. Stuff we do every day. And again, I'm not saying that it's because we are great and other people are crap. Not because of that. It's because the game on YouTube is different. Now you're asking me why we are not doing this? Because I don't give a damn. Okay. I want people to get better. I've already had people on my channels, okay, writing me that I cannot play or other things. I don't care. Okay, that's the thing. I don't care. I want you guys to look at this, see what we are doing, be able to do something with your guitar playing, and get better. That's my shtick, and I'm sticking to it. Okay, sorry. Okay, makes sense. But and I see people here. Okay. Well, of course, there is James Maxwell here. I don't want to slow down. Come on, James. people who don't know James Maxwell, we did a live stream just a couple of weeks ago, so you can see what kind of character. He's joking, by the way, okay, in case you don't know. Okay, or yes, of course. I hate when you took it very say slow, they go down from 200 to 180 ppm. It's true, it's true, it's true. I agree, I agree. But you see, that's the thing. Everything we're talking about today, it's super basic stuff. Okay, like slow down, play those chords slow. Okay, see, here's one thing. You're gonna improve faster if you concentrate on those 2 or 3 things that Maurice already told you, like play the strumming patterns in time, grab 2 simple chords and switch between them again, lift, move, and then press. Or like you were saying, up, over, and down, or something like that. It doesn't matter what words you use. Okay, you concentrate on those things. You give it some time. Okay, you get better. You get way better in a short amount of time too. Okay, so you do it. Yeah, let me comment on another couple of comments. No, it is never too late to pick up the guitar. I had once a student, and she started at 88 to play the guitar, and she became actually pretty good. So never too late. And then that's the other thing. It's maybe you're not gonna become a world level guitar player, but you're gonna have fun. Okay, and for me, fun is strictly better than no fun. Okay, so because that's the other thing. It's I see a lot of people today that they say, I'm gonna start guitar, but only if I can become very, very, very good at it. How about having fun? Okay. I'm playing this because it's fun, and it's not a competition. There are always going to be people better than you, and lots of them, by the way. Okay, people who started before you, people who have all the advantages that in the world and they can spend a lot of time, or people who have an iron will and then they simply go without eating or sleeping, and so they can out practice you. I mean, it's and that's great. It's okay. The thing is, I don't care. I want to have fun with this. No, it's not a contest on who's faster, who's more versatile, who's. It's fun. That's the whole point. It's fun. Grab this and have fun. Okay, makes sense. So that's the thing. And then and 45 years later, and I still warm up with the chromatic scale. I can see that. You know what? Slightly off-topic answer here, but I really don't like the chromatic scale as a warm-up because I never use them in real time. In real time, I mean, I can play them. Okay, I just don't like them because you never use them in real life music. I mean, unless you play Dream Theater, but because they compose songs to use those chromatic runs in their songs. Because Petrucci thought, I'm warming up with those, why don't I use them musically? And then he wrote a couple of songs with that. But unless you're doing these, don't. Warm up with something that is more relevant to your music, okay? For instance, how about warming up taking 2 easy chords and switching between them? Okay, whatever 2 easy chords. Easy, it's what's easy for you right now. Pick 2 easy chords and move between them. That's a warm-up. And it's more useful than the chromatic stuff. Try that for a couple of weeks and let me know how it goes, okay? You'll see. Well, what's next?
All right, so one more thing I think we'll have time for. We'll see if you might have more, but so another thing that beginners should avoid. So before I say that, actually, I want to mention I saw a question go through on the chat. Let me deal with that first, real quick, because it's a really easy answer. Someone said something about how do you deal with muscle pain or something like that. If you're in pain, muscle pain, stop. Never play through pain. If it's muscle, if it's not the fingertips is different. If it's muscle, if it's tendons, if it's anything inside, outside of your fingertips, don't play through it. You're probably doing something wrong. you're probably pressing too hard, you probably have your guitar in the wrong position, you're probably doing something where your body is not in a position where it should be. So if you do get hurt and it doesn't go away on its own, I personally always get it checked by a physiotherapist just to make sure that I can't re-injure it and to learn how to take care of it and to heal it faster. And I have injured my hand and fingers before trying to stretch too much or play too fast, etc., or pushing too hard. So that's something that's very important for you as a beginner. Never play through pain. And fingertip pain, I don't get calluses. I get a little thick layer of skin, so I have a genetic difference from most people. I do not get big calluses, but I can still play pretty well. So just to add to my previous point about not worrying about using so much power to get the sound, accuracy is what's going to get you the sound. Being accurate, playing your notes and your chords as close to the fret bars as possible, and using minimal pressure. That's the ideal. And so calluses are going to form. You don't have to push. Actually, I think pushing harder actually slows down the growth of calluses because it's more about friction. Friction is what creates the callus, not really the pressure more than anything else from what I've learned. Anyway, so moving on, there's one more thing at least I want to talk about today, and it's another thing that plagues beginners, and it's probably one of the biggest problems that I see outside of people pushing too hard, and that's perfectionism. Trying to do everything perfect all the time. There's a time and place for that, and we already talked about it when you're learning new chords or you want to make them better. If you're warming up, you want to take your time, go slow, and do the moves perfect because that's the goal of that exercise. But when you're trying to play something, let's say you've got a few chords and you want to strum to it and you want to play something musical like a song or whatever. Well, if you're worried about perfectionism, then you're done. Your song is not going to sound musical and you're going to be frustrated because you're never going to make it sound like the song or whatever you're trying to accomplish. So the key to this is to not worry about your chords being perfect. Now, the faster you go, the harder it is to be accurate. So that's where all this stuff we've already been talking about comes into play. If you slow down, the chances of you being accurate and playing well and not having to be perfect or hesitating or whatever will actually be easier. So the perfectionism kind of looks like this. Okay, so I'll describe what I mean about the perfectionism. What happens is, let's say you've learned a G chord and you want to go to a D chord. We'll use that for now because it's hard to be with the other easy chords. It's really difficult to have this problem. So G and D are a typical one where people struggle. So what happens is people go from a G to a D chord and they stop. So they lift, they move, and then they stop, and then they make sure that finger's there, and then they put all the fingers down. So if you're trying to play a song while you're doing this, it's not going to sound very good because you're going to stop. And then they go to G, and it's like the same thing. It's like, okay. So that's just your conscious brain. And I mean, if you've done the exercises I talked about before, and you've done this back and forth, if you're strumming, you're going to stop strumming when you do this too, right? So if you're trying to put everything together, you would do better to just keep strumming, let these chords kind of just go wherever they land. Yes, you're going to make mistakes. If you make mistakes every single time, that just means you're going way too fast. Slow it down, but the song's faster. So what? Those people didn't learn the song that fast. They started where you are. So if you start slower, you're going to have a much better chance to smoothly be able to strum. So I'm going to strum. And if I'm going really slow, simple pattern, I can change these chords fairly smoothly. And even when I was a total beginner, if I did that, it would work. I was just too dumb to do it all the time, right? I was just too much of in a rush. So that's one of the things. And it's really difficult. Look, I understand. I was a perfectionist when I was trying to learn guitar. It's really difficult for most people to break out of this because your conscious mind keeps getting in the way and keeps saying, but, because we're taught our whole lives through school, through whatever, that we can't make mistakes. Mistakes are bad. Mistakes are not a good thing. So you have to kind of wean yourself from that kind of mindset when you're playing guitar, because especially just in this instance, when you're trying to make things musical, when you're trying to put everything together, And the key is you want it to be smooth and you want it to be consistent. You want it to be, to be musical. And so what I try to do is teach my students, the ones that have the hardest time, I just get them to look away. And funny thing is they're not looking at their hand, they usually do it properly. Now they may make a mistake, they may not land the chord perfectly, but it's usually pretty close. And if you use a scale of, instead of a binary scale of 1, it's perfect, and 0, which is everything else, which is what almost everybody does when they first start learning guitar, that's the wrong scale. It should be, let's say, 0 to 100. If you land the D chord and you get one finger off by like a freaking millimeter, like I have here, I'm just off the string, that's 95% correct, maybe 98. It's like, that's a pretty darn good percentage for someone who just learned how to go from G to D. So if you use that principle when you're trying to play guitar, you learn to slow down when you make a lot of mistakes, you'll start to be able to play a lot smoother, a lot more musical. And then you get the feeling. See, the feeling is what's important. You feel the music, you feel how everything kind of goes together and it flows. And once it starts to flow, you can do that with other chords and other things. Here's what I noticed. I mean, I've had people come to me that already knew how to play music. They're musicians, okay? They pick up a good, like I had 2 students that just happened that started at the same time. One is a total beginner, never touched the guitar before. The other one actually could already play piano quite well. And you would think that the musician would have the advantage. Well, unfortunately, this musician was a perfectionist. And this person just would not stop worrying about getting the chords perfect. The other one, the total beginner that never touched the guitar, that person actually did not care so much and just kind of was a lot more free spirited and just kind of just let things go because they didn't really care so much about the mistakes. The amazing thing about that is the non-musician actually progressed much faster. I mean, it was amazing how much clearer, how much better their chords were, how much better their chord changes were. They sounded a lot more musical, and the other person actually noticed it and commented on it. And then that actually was a segue for me to kind of, again, teach them on why that was. And it actually helped them to finally kind of deconstruct that perfectionism, and they did improve more, but it was really difficult for them. So that's an important thing. It's really hard to do, I understand, but you have to find a way to get to not let your brain stunt your growth and to stop you from making actual music. So, Tommaso, do you have anything to add to that?
Sure. Well, especially when somebody comes from piano, because the piano, to get a good sound, you have to press the key. Okay, and I mean, not me saying that. It's actually Bach was saying that the keyboard in general is the easiest instrument. You just press the right key at the right time, and it makes a good sound.
Totally.
Which, I mean, it sounds funny because it's not easy to press the right key at the right time. Okay, but the sound is made. You don't have to make the sound. While here with guitar, but several other instruments. I mean, all the woodwinds, all the string instruments, you have to make the sound. Okay, so that's one thing. Second thing is, I mean, if electric guitar or guitar in general stands for something, is to be free, okay, free-spirited, make some noise with the instrument, and then worry about making it better later, maybe, okay? We are definitely not academic musicians here, okay? So we could be, but we don't want to, okay? So everybody relax, make some noise with the instrument, do something. And if it doesn't sound great, no problem. Keep practicing. It's going to sound better. But the idea is start to be a little bit carefree about all this, okay? Because if you always try to do the perfect thing, it's tiring. You burn out.
Oof.
You burn out. And I have a couple of questions. That's an interesting one, actually, that would be willing to talk about the picking hand. I struggle with up strums. I've seen other YouTubers talk about a slight angle with the pick, but I haven't been able to get it down, feel comfortable. So let me comment on that. Because the thing is, one thing is up strums, and one thing is up stroke, which is on a single string. And the people who talk about the picking angle, it's because they're talking about the up stroke. Because you want to minimize the energy it takes to go up through a single string, and the more you can fine-tune that, the faster you can play. But if we talk about strums, the strums are easy. You just put the pick here, pull up with the full power of your arm. That's the strum. You can go from your elbow, you can go in a pumping motion from your shoulder, you can do whatever you want, but just brute force go to the string. That's an up strum. Okay? There's no need for subtlety there. Okay? Just power through all the strings. If you're talking about, on the other hand, upstroke and downstroke, etc., I would recommend you to check Mike Filipov's channel. Okay, if you search on YouTube "practice guitar now," I don't know if the channel is called "practice guitar now" or just "practice guitar," but Mike Filipov's, okay, he has a lot of good points about that. That will be one thing. And the second thing I would recommend is whenever somebody talk about pick slanting, turn off the video and go somewhere else. Okay, I know.
Right.
It's a bit draconic, okay, I know, but pick slanting, it's like the final 1% you do once you have everything else in place. But on YouTube, this became the big topic to talk about, okay, which is essentially how much you tilt the pick in a specific direction. It's a finesse. It may help, I'm not saying that, but the thing is, I never thought about pick slanting. Mike Filipov never thought about pick slanting, and apparently we are doing the right thing already. Or at least they tell me. I wouldn't know. Okay, so get down the big important thing first. Worry about the little finesses later.
Can I add something about the upstrum?
Yeah, go for it.
Just really quick. One thing that beginners do have a hard time with that, and there are some people on YouTube, I guess, I didn't realize that do, when you're talking about strumming, talk about pick angle and all this stuff, and it's like they complicate things way too much. What I've found is people that have a hard time with the upstrum are people that have a really hard pick and are gripping it really tight. So the solution is one of two things: is to either get a really soft pick, so that your upstrums you don't lose the pick, you don't have to like dig through it, or you learn to relax your hand. Now, for a total beginner, the second one's going to be really hard. So that's why I always go to just get a really flexible pick. Doesn't have to be like, it doesn't have to be a piece of paper or anything, but get at most a medium-sized pick, maybe a between a light and a medium, and that will allow the pick to just kind of flow, and then your upstrum will be a lot easier. If your upstrums, they're not even, then just do just practice only upstrums for a while. That's it. Go ahead, Tommaso.
Then again, you can use a piece of paper.
You could, yeah.
Just bend a piece of paper and use it. Okay, it's a sticky note. If you really don't have a pick, everything works. But yeah, it's true. People, by the way, I'm a fan of super hard picks, but that's because I play a lot of single line soloing and this kind of thing, or funky, and you really need to want to have that rigid.
I do the same for electric, yeah, super hard.
But when you strum, especially if you strum an acoustic guitar in front of a microphone in studio, having a soft pick
medium
sounds better because you get more of that kind of frr noise on the string that sounds so good on a microphone when mixed in. Okay, so you can learn to relax enough so that a hard pick feels like a soft one, but still, again, when I record, I grab the
it's a harsher sound,
pick.
so yeah. That's why I would use this to record. Absolutely,
exactly. So okay, so again, your mileage may vary depending on what you do, but again, a little piece of paper will work as a soft pick in a pinch, and sound pretty good too. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, I'm always amazed when people spend like $40 on one pick because it's made of I don't know, dragon scales or stuff like that. Guys, I'm using plastic picks and they sound great. Okay, and you do whatever you want, but I think I'm going to put into fine a point or sometimes on some things. That would be one thing. And then somebody was commenting about the chromatic stuff and the Flight of the Bumblebee. Yeah, it's true. Flight of the Bumblebee. It's so chromatic. Okay, but the interesting part is that the Flight of the Bumblebee, the hard part of Flight of the Bumblebee, it's not what I just played. That's the easy part. Okay. It's when you have more than 4 chromatics in a row, so you need to learn to shift back and forth with your hand, and that's the hard part. So if you do that part as your warm up super slowly, that will be more useful even for that kind of music, okay, than just the pure chromatic going up that people do all the time. Okay, again, just a suggestion. I'm not here to tell you what is right and what is wrong. That's my opinion, and you guys take whatever you want with that. Okay, but yeah, up to you. Okay, Mo, I know you have something for us. I know you have some something to recommend to our audience. So I'm gonna let you do that.
So, right. So I have a course on my website, and this is it's more geared towards electric guitar. And so it basically starts from the foundation, from the basic levels, teaches you how to pick properly, how to hold your pick, how to move between strings. Basically, it's really perfect for beginners to get them started on the little micro movements. I would do other things on top of that. I would supplement it, but this is perfect for getting the foundation laid for your playing in any style that you want. If you can already play, but you're stuck and you're not sure if you've got gaps in your playing, this is also great because it will show you if you have gaps and you can fix them as you go through the course.
Fantastic. I have also something to recommend to you guys. I know some people have commented about the pentatonic scale, if it's easy to learn and all this kind of thing. Pentatonic scale, it's actually fairly easy to learn. The difficult part is to make it sound. Okay, so here's something I would recommend. That's a free ebook, completely free, and you find at this link down here. Okay, and it contains 18 tips to make your pentatonic solos sound professional. Yes, I'm just reading the title. And those 18 tips are super easy. You could read one of those tips, sit down, and in 5 minutes you have it. Okay, and you go on the next tip, and in 5 minutes you have it, and so on and so forth. At the same time, they are deep enough that you could spend days and days even on a single tip and find more and more and more sounds. Okay, so I would recommend, again, it's completely free, no string attached. You take that and you learn how to make those pentatonic scales sound. Because again, one thing is to play, another thing is to make it, and again, nothing hard, really nothing hard, but this sounds like music, as opposed to, right? Simple stuff, simple tricks. Those are not really licks, okay? I'm not giving you the lick. That's the way Eric Clapton plays. I'm showing you the elements that you can put together and create the licks. So sometimes you put them together and you get the Eric Clapton lick. Sometimes you put them together and you get something completely original, okay? So check it out. It's free. And if you, again, many of you are interested in pentatonic, I've seen in the comment, in the chat going on, check that, okay? Fantastic. So let me bring Maurice back in. Okay, Maurice. So first of all, thank you very much. Lots of good points. You made lots of good points, and I could see people in the chat really liking that. And again, all of this is simple, but it's important. So thank you for making all those points.
My pleasure. It's awesome. I had a good time.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody in the chat. We're done for today. Thank you, Maurice. And until next time, guys, enjoy.